Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching. Then click the link in the info box below the video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as this increases the live audience, of course, and that in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show, and one last time, if you are new to the channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. And we are joined by Sleeping Warrior. How you doing?
Yo, yo. I'm doing okay, mate. You?
Very well. No complaints.
I'm looking forward to a hectic hangout.
Today?
Yeah.
Why do you think it'll be hectic?
For the same reasons that the last one was.
Yeah, yesterday was like a Sunday afternoon. Everyone's around. No one's at work. You know, there's a whole number of reasons why that was a very, very extensively viewed and trolled show. But I don't know. I can't see any reason why we get excessive trolling today. You don't know from one show to the next what it's going to be. It's such a mixed bag, isn't it, these debates?
If anybody feels like joining simply to take a place, that would be useful, because it means that we can control it better. I think it's probably wise to get that out there early, even if you don't speak, because just in case.
Yeah, that was a stroke of genius yesterday. I mean, I couldn't think of a solution to the problem, and then you came up with it. And I was like, yeah, I've got a good team of people behind me here, and it's, you know, just very humbling. So you probably could pick that up from my Skype messages afterwards, but I was very grateful.
Yeah, and then you followed it up with, I'm still not convinced you're not the whatever it was that you said.
I was actually kidding. I said, yeah, I'm still not convinced it's actually not you doing it, and this is just an extreme form of gaslighting.
Yeah, so I love creating the fun and making it look like it's not me. That's
yeah,
really
exactly.
what I'm doing.
I was only kidding, though. Yeah, that's pretty extreme.
Dawn's asked, would you mind asking Nathan, would he unban Dawn's original account, his main account?
I can't remember what I banned him for, but no, he's still got a second account. Who cares? What difference does it make?
Yeah.
I'm certainly not going to do it while a live show's on. I might remember and do it, Dawn. If I remember, I'll unban you. I can't remember what I banned you for, so it must have been something pretty small. So I'm going to do a little announcement. So Anthony's got a big announcement to make, which he will be making at the Flat Earth Convention, which is on Friday this week in, 4 days' time. So that's going to be revealed there exclusively to those who are listening. And then, hopefully, if Anthony's willing, he'll reveal it on this show as well, on Saturday.
Yeah, I was up at St. Bees again for a couple of days away, and I wanted to go up there to see if I could get more info, more evidence to support or deny whatever the shape of the Earth is that we live on. And obviously my position is that I realise it's not a ball. And there were discussions, and there were like contentious topics, contentious statements made by ballers. And to be honest, I dismissed them on face value simply because they're unrealistic, given that we know that there are issues. Anyway, I went out there just blind to see what I could see on a particular evening when the visibility was probably the best visibility I'd had. And when I say the best, I mean that I could just see the Isle of Man. We had great weather whilst we were there. Lovely weather, nice and warm, summery, shorts and t-shirt. But visibility was naff. So I couldn't, for the most time that I was there, I actually couldn't even see the Isle of Man, let alone, you know, get any kind of observations done. So I was relying on other things that I could do whilst I was there, like boats and stuff like that. So ultimately, I was unable to get the visibility necessary to see far enough. I couldn't actually see far enough, which was really frustrating. But on the last day, on the last evening, I actually started to begin to see the Isle of Man, and I was like, "Ooh, I'll just try it and see what I could get." Anyway, I got evidence that I was just absolutely gobsmacked with. And I brought it back and I showed it to Nathan and I said, do you see what I'm seeing here? And Nathan was like, yeah, that is it. And we were like, how is this even possible? And I don't know how it's even possible, but it is definitely confirming the position that I was trying to achieve. And I checked it with Chris and I checked it with Ranty, and we all agree that we are looking at what it appears that we are looking at. And it's the application of there is no science on a flat Earth. Ultimately, it goes above and beyond the position that I previously made, which is the video, which was like, what's all this stuff here? I mean, I made the previous video got 100,000 views, and it kind of went viral within flat Earth. Didn't go viral in its general sense, but a lot of people got to know about this point, and it was as a result of the debates with Nathan and the ballers that came on to challenge me.
Hey, Alan.
Morning, boys.
Hello.
That I went back and got stuff. And when I went back and got stuff and I realized what it was that was there, I was like, wow. So I've checked it with Nathan and I've run it by Gary running the convention in the UK. And it's going to get released as an exclusive to the convention on the Friday evening. And I think Gary's going to start promoting it as such in the imminent future, because it is cool. It is excellent. And I think in the words of Dawn, it's extraordinary evidence. So hopefully it'll put a spanner in amongst the works.
Yeah, I think you summed it up nicely. Hello, Jim Troll. So yeah, you summed it up nicely when you said there's no evidence for there's no science for a flat Earth, and what you showed me defied what my understanding was to date in terms of what could be achieved, and I was quite shocked at that. But then, like you say, we don't. I'm stuttering over my words because I don't want to say it, but I'm just going to say it. We don't know what we're doing, quite literally.
Stuttering over my words because I don't want to say it, but I'm just going to say it. We don't know what we're doing, quite literally.
Man, troll ahoy. How long did we get into this show? 7 minutes. Unreal. Welcome to the show. You don't know. You don't know. At the show. Right, this should be the work of but a moment. There we go. Share the link again. That's right, troll. Troll. That's right. Troll. Troll.
Sorry, again. I wasn't paying attention, and I kind of assumed that you were covering it. Or were you covering it?
I need to turn you up a bit, hold on. Me for that matter, no, it's a new hangout. Let's just do that. There we go. I'll keep the link private for about 5 or 10 minutes, I think, while we just have a knitter natter.
Yeah, I think so.
There we go. Back up and running. A couple of minutes work. So yeah, are you looking forward to Friday? I certainly am.
Yeah, I am actually. I mean, just picking up on a comment there, somebody said in chat, I think it was Baz, the troll that he is, you know, he's got like 0 subs, but he does make a good point. He says, and Riley just so happened to find it the week before the convention. I have been trying to get good visibility for weeks, but obviously it's winter and we're coming into the spring now. So the visibility is going to improve, and it's basically the beginning of the good visibility period. And I've been trying to get it for weeks and weeks and weeks, but it's obviously winter. So it's not a coincidence with the convention. It more happens. It's a correlation with the better weather, but it's a fair shout. I mean, yeah, we just so happened to find it. I mean, go figure. Went out to there to look specifically for Summit. We see it. Yeah, that's a real big coincidence, isn't it?
Yeah, you could spin that either way, couldn't you? So you could say, oh, you know, he's been out loads of times and he's not got it. Or you could say, oh, he just happens to have got it on this occasion. It's like, well, spin it whichever way you like. Doesn't matter. You haven't even seen what he's got, so who cares at this stage? It's not even been shown. So who cares? You know, but we're excited about it. It was exciting to see it. It's, you know, you get those little moments in Flat Earth where you get goosebumps up and down your spine and you go, wow, how is this possible? How am I even looking at this? And it was one of those moments. You know, you were calling me in disbelief, or at least I got that tone from you. You know, you were saying, do you think this is possible? Am I actually seeing what I think I'm seeing? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I realised was when I did the boat thing, I don't know how Brenda managed to take from what I said, meaning that Brenda completely destroyed whatever point she was making because she totally misrepresented me. But when I was making the boat point, that the visibility is dependent on the actual visibility on the day. The more moisture in the atmosphere, the less you can see. And the boat showed that. For me, the boat was just sat just within that limit of the day because there was this like ghost ship appearance to it. And I was gobsmacked how that would be the result because I didn't really think about the transition point from where it goes from being seen to no longer being seen. I just kind of assumed that there was like this hard barrier between the 2 points where you could either see it or you couldn't. I'd never thought about the transition point. And the transition point basically puts it into the shadows. It makes it go dark and disappear. That's what it seems to do. But on that basis, the visibility wasn't particularly great. What I learned from the ferry experience was that I had to change the levels to be able to see this stuff. Now, I missed it with my human eye. And it was only when I went back over it and I was looking and looking and looking to see where this bloody boat was, because I knew the boat was there. And it was only when I started playing with the image that I found it. So I applied the same principle, which was don't trust my eye, trust my camera more, because I mean, I've got 20/20 vision. I've got really good vision. I am colorblind, but I believe that what makes up or what I lose in the color vision, I make up with the optical abilities of my eye. I can see really well, and I was trusting my eyes were better than the camera for obvious reasons, and I realized that that's not the position. I mean, I've got really, really good eyes, but my camera is able to see better. So what I did was I gave way to my eyes. I allowed the camera to be more like to have precedence over my eyes. But I applied the principle of, well, if you play with the levels, you can make things contrast easier. So you can pick it out. And that's what I did. I came back and I looked at the footage and I played with the levels on it. And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, wow. So I rang Nathan and I said, look at this, tell me what you think. And he was looking at it. He was like, how is that even possible? And I was like, I don't know. Don't get it. I don't understand it because we're seeing the effects of refraction in the image, but we're also seeing stuff that shouldn't be there. So we'll run it by Ranty, run it by Chris, and we've all looked at it with other, and I've spoken to other people to see what they say, and it's a jaw drop moment for me. So I ran it by Gary, and I just said, look, this is what we've got. This is what we're expecting to get, and we've got it, and this is where it's worked from. And I said, so I think we should release this publicly in the convention just because it is an exclusive. It'll give you something to chew your teeth into. And I was like, and he was like, yeah, okay. He said, provided that you all agree that this is credible in terms of what we're looking at. He said, let's run with it. And I was like, indeed. So it'll go public at the convention on the Friday, and then on the Saturday on Nathan's show, it'll go public online. And then hopefully, if we can get it sorted with Globebusters, it'll end up on Globebusters 2 just to promote the experience because it's incredible. It's, to quote Dawn, it's extraordinary evidence, and I'm shocked with it. But I'll get it again. What I realized was that I've missed loads of opportunities where I could have got this in the past, but didn't even try and get it because I didn't think that I could get it because of the effects of refraction, distortion, opacity of the atmosphere, and all that kind of stuff. I just never considered that it was realistically an option. And now I realize that I've missed out on loads of opportunities to get this, and I wish I'd have known that this was even possible. So it's like, wow. So can
I just say I'm going to be a bit gloaty here because there was at least one occasion where I was like, just go out and see what you can see anyway. Hello, Ruhif.
Hello.
Good evening. Let's turn you up.
Hello.
He asked for the link, so I thought we can trust him. He's a
I'll
bit of a
find the
berg,
link
but
out
he's okay.
in friendly places. You know, I don't mind that before I share the link. I was just about to share it, actually.
Right. I'm having some ice cream, so I'll be 5 minutes mute.
What flavour is it? Is it flat earth flavour? Oh, he's having his ice cream.
Cookies and cream with chocolate dots and coffee.
My favourite ice cream flavour is Globies flavour. It's lovely. Swill it down with a glass of Prosecco Globy, and then like. Anyway,
I'll be mute for 5
yeah,
minutes.
no worries.
That was lovely.
Well, he's just taking a place for the moment, so that if we have to, we can get like more control on the hangout. If we have to, I mean, we shouldn't need to. We're dealing with adults, but obviously, doesn't seem to be the case at all.
Right, I'll wait till we get a couple of friendlies in, and then I'll stick the link out. I haven't stuck it out yet, or it's still the old one for now.
Right.
Yeah. What time are you getting down there on Friday?
Well, the problem for me is really it's because of the traffic getting to where it is for that time. I'm hoping really that you're going to invite me down to yours for the afternoon so that I don't have to try and battle the Birmingham traffic at tea time. So I'm hoping that I could come down to yours in the afternoon when there's not a load of traffic and then just chill at yours for a few hours beforehand and then go down to the convention from yours. How far away is it from yours?
Well, it's a drive away. You know, it's a totally different place, but it's not that far.
How long would it take?
To drive? Half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, depending on traffic.
Oh, really? I thought you were a lot closer to it than that. Oh, in that case, then it doesn't make any difference if you're that far. I thought you were like 20 minutes away.
No, not as close as that.
So, in that case, it doesn't matter. We'll
close enough to not need a hotel, let's put it that way. I've got it up on screen now. For those who are interested, get yourself a ticket if you haven't got one already. Flat Earth Convention. Oh, yeah, you're excited too, aren't you? Flat Earth Convention UK, which is Friday, Saturday and Sunday this weekend. And it's at Jury's Inn in central Birmingham. Jury's Inn, which is in Broad Street, which is a very cool part of Birmingham. So yeah, lots and lots of stuff to do there. But the convention is the most important thing that will be there. So yeah, check it out. Get yourself a ticket. www.flatearthconventionuk.co.uk.
Oh, that's a friendly account. I recognise that one.
There's a few friendlies. Like I say, I'll find it out in Skype, so hopefully we'll get at least 3 or 4 people on the panel, and then when I put it out to the audience, a few people from the audience will join just to act as placeholders, so we don't get trolled to all hell, and we can have a reasonably calm show.
Yeah, hopefully. But I'd be interested once we do the show on the Saturday. I mean, it'll take like 10 minutes to present it, and once it's presented, I'd be really interested to know which ballers are going to actually argue against this. Because I don't know if you're prepared to do it, Nath, but if you could play the last 90 seconds of the Hangout from 76, it's basically me asking Paul Voigt a question, and his answer is basically he would invoke non-standard refraction no matter what.
76.
Well, yeah, it's the last 90 seconds of 76.
Yeah, I don't mind. There's no trolls to battle as the link's not out at the moment, so yeah, I'll go and have a look if you can keep talking.
Yeah. And ultimately, when you see the evidence on the show, you're going to have to either, and it is going to be black or white, you're going to have to either do what Paul does, right, which is what will be played now, or you'd have to go, hey, that's a bit of an issue. What's going on there? I don't want to say too much about it because I want to keep the exclusivity for the convention. But on the other hand, I really want the ballers to commit to what the position is going to be. Because you're going to have to do what Paul says in the last 90 seconds of Hangout 76. So listen to what Paul says when I ask him the question, and then listen to his answer. And you guys are all going to have to either side with Paul on this one, or look at the evidence and go, "Am I really going to do that?" Because it's big, it's bad, it's powerful. So I need to knock Discord off because it's going to be bleeping up in the background and distracting the life out of me.
And all sorts of other factors.
Well, again,
just repeating that the effects are negligible is nonsense, because we know that we can have refraction effects anywhere between normal and extreme. Anywhere in
No.
between, Anthony.
In normal, unless we're getting Fata
Pointing to an
Morganas and
article
crazy
that
stuff,
says
normal effects
negligible
are
is
negligible.
nonsense.
60 seconds
It's a
left.
nonsense, did you say?
Yes, pointing to an article saying that they're negligible is nonsense because we know that under certain
Choose, Paul.
conditions,
You
they
can't,
are
if that's
not
the case, then you can
negligible.
never point to any articles again.
Hello?
Right? Clearly, we can have refraction effects that are not negligible because we
So you
see
would be-
strange things.
So even if I went back and got it, you would just argue it was non-standard refraction and
And
therefore
you're ignoring
flat.
the first part that says under standard circumstances, the effects are negligible.
Yeah, and we don't get crazy
been through this
refraction all the
before.
time, but it's just conveniently when it suits you because
Been
it
through
negates
this,
the curve.
Anthony.
So basically, we're never going to
We've
be able
been
to
through
present
this.
evidence to you that
We've
you'll
been
ever
through
accept
this.
because
Under
you'll always argue
standard
that it's
circumstances,
non-standard
the effects are
refraction. Is that your position?
Flow birth. Nothing's ever good.
What about non-standard conditions? Under
see
non-standard
fa-
conditions, the effects would not be negligible.
But then we see Fata Morganas and mirages and stuff, and we don't get very
That's
often.
right. And we do see it. We see all sorts of things, like being able to see further than we would normally be able to see.
So let me ask you, Paul, if I went back and got this leading cliff face because the refraction was kind to us and we got it, would you simply argue it was non-standard
Yep.
refraction and therefore the Earth was still a ball?
Absolutely, because I would
So then
want to see it
there's
done
no point
on
in me going back then, is there?
days.
Okay, let's do it on
There's no
Under
point in me going
standard
back. Paul, there would be no point in me going back, would there? Because if you're just going to argue it anyway, then there's no point.
And I think with that, I am going to say a huge, massive, enormous.
So you can kind of guess they're going to argue basically that this is the result of non-standard refraction, no matter what. That's the position that the ballers are going to have to take because there is no other explanation that would even work plausibly, feasibly, realistically, logically. There is no other explanation. It's going to have to be the application of non-standard refraction that just so happens to make it perfectly appear to be flat. But it's defying the math geometrically so much that you guys, you're going to have to be deluded to even... It's nonsense. It's ridiculous. And this is where really I want some of the ballers to commit to it because I'm looking forward to Saturday. I can't wait for you guys to see it. It's going to be glorious.
Right, shall I stick the link out?
Yeah, I'm paying attention now.
All right, let's see how we get on. Hangout number 3 will be on its way in about 5 minutes.
We could do some placeholders if anybody wants to join in chat and just to take the hold, just to hold the place. That'd be great.
I finished my ice cream.
So,
Let's fight. Let's go.
all right, gloves are back on.
What can we talk about?
Well, what do you agree with what Paul said? He will always apply non-standard refraction no matter what. Basically, no matter how flat it looks, he'll always apply non-standard refraction to bring stuff back.
Basically, no matter how flat it looks, he'll always apply.
Kick. Are we still in?
Yeah, we're good.
Good. All right. I would want to know what the limits of refraction are, like what counts as extreme refraction. So 7/6R is counted as standard refraction. Is 8/6R plausible? I don't know. Is 9/6R plausible?
It'd have to go the other way, wouldn't it? It'd have to make it be a tighter curve to allow rather than a greater curve. So it'd have to be like 5/6, 4/6, 3/6 to account for why it would appear to be flat.
It goes the other way.
Hey, Alan.
Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
I think that's a fair comment. I think we have to know what the parameters of this non-standard Earth flattener.
Yeah, like I did research it a couple of months ago, but it was in the context of microwaves. and basically standard refraction there is 4/3, and they had one which I think was 5/3. So standard refraction for microwaves is like 33%, but with ridiculous conditions, it was 66% or something. Am I too loud or too soft?
No, you're good.
Okay.
I'm going to be fiddling with the audio levels on this particular show. I'm just trying something slightly different, so try and ignore me fiddling with people's levels. I'm not trying to silence you in any way, don't worry. I'm trying to get you all the same level.
And I'm trying to find out where my microphone is on my laptop. So,
you're
I can
perfect.
sort of not
Don't worry, honestly. Just ignore what I'm doing.
All right.
Rue, the microphone is normally on the right next to the clasp. It's a little tiny pinprick hole right next to the clasp in the middle at the top of the bezel.
So at the join, you mean?
Not at the hinge, at the top of the bezel where it bends over and makes the contact with the board. It's normally a little tiny pinprick hole.
Okay.
You can also find it by tapping your way around the bezel on the outside edge, and we can tell you where it gets loudest.
All right, I'll do that. Flat as fuck. Yeah, I'll do this later.
No, you can do it now.
Yeah.
But you've actually got a reasonable mic in that laptop.
Yeah, but sometimes if I like slouch in bed, I cover it somehow and I don't know where it is.
What kind of laptop is it?
Spectre, HP Spectre 360.
Oh, hang on a sec. Yo.
Top content again, guys. Top content.
Hey, man. This is award-winning stuff right here.
It is. I suppose Anthony's found another smudge somewhere.
Yeah, maybe.
It is. I suppose Anthony's found another smudge somewhere.
Yeah, so just to clarify, you guys have all been over this evidence that Anthony has, right? And sort of
look at it,
supported it. Okay. It just makes it all the more sweeter.
It better be higher than 5 pixels this time. And we've also got to take into account, Ruif, that Anthony's manipulated the picture.
Manipulated?
Oh, with adjusting the levels.
It's manipulated.
Sure, people will demand the original.
I do play it with and without the levels, so it plays twice. So it's all good. Don't worry. I mean, when you say it better be more than a few pixels, that is the exact argument that the Rumpus makes when he claims that it's only a few pixels to account for whatever he wants it to account for. So you laugh about the few pixels, but that is the argument by the ballers.
Don't insult me by calling me the Rumpus.
No, but I'm insulting the claim about it better be more than a few pixels. Well, a few pixels is the point that Rumpus makes.
Is it only a few pixels?
Yeah, that's what he seems to. But he normally calls it a couple of pixels. He drops it down even further when he wants to.
Yeah, it is just a few pixels. That's all a photo is.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. So that's not a really great argument, but there we go. I love it how you're fighting it before it's even been released. That's just priceless.
Well, someone has to. Someone has to. I like the new haircut, Nathan.
Thanks.
Yeah,
thanks.
looking sharp, Nathan.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Looks like you've just done a spell in prison.
That's exactly what it was. It was just an overnighter.
I thought you'd taken a visit to Borstal.
Borstal? Isn't that for teenagers?
No, it's for young men, isn't it?
No, I thought Borstal was Naughty Boy's home.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, Nathan is a naughty boy.
Well,
He's always fibbing.
37.
You should have seen it the other day when he came back. I said to him, "You're gonna have to actually do something about it because it looks terrible." Because he took his hat off or something. It looked like he just woke up. It looked horrendous. Like, Nate, do something with your hair.
Having a kid climbing all over you all day.
Yeah, she's a beast.
Yeah, she's a little monster. Top content, eh?
Absolutely.
So
Who wants to see my Facebook video when I was on steroids last year?
When you were on steroids?
Yeah, corticosteroids, not bloody anabolic steroids.
I'm not sure. I don't know what kind of video is it.
Oh no, I'm just like cuddling a pig, but the steroids make my face swell up like really fat in the face.
Really?
Yeah.
What effect did it have on other parts of you?
No, not really. I got like a lump on the back of my neck. So I tried playing pool, where I have to crouch over and line up a shot, and I just couldn't like arch my back enough to even look at the balls. So I couldn't play pool, which was pretty annoying.
So how did what was the purpose for the steroids?
I had a
Yeah,
bone marrow transplant in January last year, and then got graft versus host disease after that.
You had a bone marrow transplant. Why did you have that?
I had leukemia in September 16.
Fuck. How did you catch that?
How did you catch that?
You don't catch
You know what I mean? Because leukemia is something that is normally associated with kids. I know you don't catch
normally, yeah. Oh no, it's just a mutation in my blood system, and that was it.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's pretty intense.
My teacher and one of my primary school teachers died of leukemia, and he was like 46, something like that.
And I was pretty close. I was in ICU for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, he went literally. Far gone that he did die in the end anyway, but he nearly died before diagnosis. It was that bad. That was
same. Yeah.
What were your symptoms, if you don't mind me asking?
Got really tired for about a month, and then I got an infection, or two infections in my mouth, and neither of them would go away. And then my throat got really ulcerated, and I couldn't eat. So I'd gone like a month and hadn't eaten for about 2 or 3 weeks. And I just went to my doctor and said, "Look, can you just give me some antibiotics for a couple of days, and I'll be fine?" And she goes, "All right, here's some antibiotics. If you're not feeling better in 24 hours, take yourself to the hospital." And that's basically what happened. And they diagnosed me the next day.
It's quite rare leukemia in adults, isn't it?
Yeah, yes and no. Yes and no.
Because I don't know any other adults bar this one guy that got leukemia. And you're now the second guy that I've ever heard. I've never really. I mean, I know there will be cases of it, but it's not common. And that's why I said, "How did you catch that?" In meaning that kids get it, adults don't really get it.
I think they get a different one. I got acute myeloid leukemia, and they, what do they get?
But you might actually die.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I almost did die. Yeah, there were two stints in ICU where I basically should have died twice. One from just sepsis, and the other from a lung infection.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nuts.
I know impressive is probably the wrong word, but it is impressive. It's like, wow, that's quite a lot of stuff to do. I mean, how old are you? So you're like what, 41?
39, turning 40 shortly.
Yeah, that kind of age where my teacher died as well. It's like, wow.
Yeah. Oh, it's kind of a good age to get it, because if you get it when you're 60, 65, your body can't handle the chemo. So
That's me done then.
So what did you learn by the experiences? I know that's.
I learned. I lost a lot of anxiety about things. So my sort of baseline anxiety has gone right down.
Because a lot of stuff
like things. Oh, you have to give up control of everything. I mean, you're basically in hospital and they jab you here, there, and everywhere, and you. Like I used to really have a fear of throwing up. I used to have to medicate to go on planes. Various sort of situational anxieties, they disappeared because you're in this situation where you have no control and you just jabbed and cut into and, throwing up, and it's horrible. But then you sort of, I don't even know how to describe the cause and effect. It's like you go through this stuff we have no control, and therefore you just go through life now not caring if you have control.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But I do want to take a screenshot of my face.
Yeah, go on, play it.
Like,
I actually
I'll
thought
take a screenshot.
I actually thought it was some kind of like subtle innuendo that I weren't quite sure what you were going to show.
Oops, hang on. Wrong one. Hang on, I'll share screen.
So, how long did the recovery take?
From the transplant, probably about 3 or 4 months. So I had it in January last year, and 3 or 4 months later, I was feeling okay.
That's fast, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things that either kills you or it doesn't.
Right.
So, did you have to go through chemo to like eradicate it, or did you have the transplant because?
No, I had chemo when I first went in, and that was where they knock your immune system out, and I'm fighting this massive infection. So that was touch and go for a long time. So that was like induction chemo, first round, and then I had 2 other rounds as outpatient, and they weren't too bad. And then December 16, I was basically preparing for transplant and forcing myself to eat 5 meals a day to gain back all this weight. And yeah, had a transplant January last year, and by about April, May, I was feeling, okay. And then my liver started playing up a little bit, so the liver rejects my brother's stem cells. So I was just on steroids for that, and you can see my face is just bloated.
Yeah, but the rest of you, look at you, you're a strip of piss. There's nothing to the rest of you.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I was probably 70. I was probably 70, I don't know, 72, 73 kilos body wise.
Wow.
Yeah, no, like I'm back to 80 kilos now, so yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go.
Amazing.
Still on a little bit of medication, but about to go off most things.
Kind of change it when you see evidence like this. It makes the person on the other end of the microphone like real, like you're not a troll.
Yeah, I'll show you another photo. 1 second.
Do you ever suspect for 1 second that he was?
I know what he means. Yeah.
Anthony,
not troll.
Yeah.
Poe, yes.
Poe? What's that?
Yeah.
I mean Poe.
I never really thought he was a troll, but I did consider if he was a Poe.
I don't know that word.
Somebody, as far as I understand it, a Poe is somebody that believes the opposite and argues it just to be contrarian. Doesn't really have any.
A Poe is someone that you're not sure. Like a lot of people think flat earthers are Poes, in that they are indistinguishable from a parody. So we can't tell whether you guys are serious. Is the short.
Like when John LeBon's videos go viral because he's saying, "Look at this terror attack. Look how terrible it is," and it goes viral for all the wrong reasons. When in actuality he is being a quote Poe, and in reality actually being totally sarcastic and poking fun of it. But to the untrained eye, he seems like he's genuine, but he's not. Is that a Poe?
Pretty much, yeah.
So
Okay.
does that mean that you think that we're Poes?
You can say it if you want to. Just say you just think we're stupid. I don't mind you saying that. We're not going to take offence if that's your actual opinion.
Some days I think you guys are not
They
serious.
love an argument.
It's really hard. It's hard to tell. That's the point. Like that's the whole definition of a Poe. It's too hard to tell.
But you realise though that by struggling to differentiate, I mean, I think I've been pretty clear that my position is that I'm reluctant to say that it's flat, even though it does appear to be. But I realise it's clearly not a ball. If you struggle to interpret my words as anything other than sincere, doesn't that make you delusional, and that you fail to distinguish the reality from the fiction?
There are some pretty good Poes out there.
And now
I was going to say you can't go by sincerity.
I've almost found this photo. Hold on.
Tony's a full conspiratard, as they say, as Tim would say.
Here we are. All right, hang on.
How's it spelled?
As what spelled? Oh,
P-O-E.
P-O-E. Yeah.
It's named after somebody. I don't.
Edgar Allan,
Edgar Allan Poe.
Oops.
famous writer. He didn't do colouring books, Tony.
Oh, I mean, knowing who Edgar Allan Poe, I still didn't make that connection though.
I've never really understood how anybody could interpret possibly that I might be a Poe. I mean, I've been really, really clear. The world doesn't appear to be a ball. It does seem to present itself as flat. I don't like saying I think it's flat, but it does appear to.
Wow, jeez.
Wow. So I'm guessing the guy on the left is when you were relatively healthy, right?
That was in December where I was building up to transplant. So I was still only like 70 something kilos, but I looked relatively normal. Whereas on the right, I'm like 60, I don't know, 66, 67.
Sorry, I think that guy that joined then, lot of love, he did try speaking, but we have just had numerous attacks now, attempted attacks. So I'm removed on the basis that there was attack after attack after attack. So if that was a sincere guy, I apologize. Just let us know in chat if you do want to join, so that we've got half a clue if we see your name join.
Yeah, we are watching the chat, or at least I am. So if you just say I'm going to join, we'll at least give you a couple of seconds to say hello. So yeah, look at the state here.
You actually have the black eyes there that make it look like you are on death's door.
I was.
Yeah, I think you made that clear.
Is that when you were at your worst on the right?
Is that what, sorry, on the right?
Is that when you were at your worst, like you were the closest to death, guys?
No.
Tony, you're morbid.
Yeah.
No. There were times. There were times when they have the monitors that monitor your heart rate and your blood pressure and your oxygen saturation.
Yeah.
There were times when my oxygen saturation was around 75 to 80, and I was incoherent at the time. Like I had no idea what was going on, and
isn't that about the level that they start to suffer hypoxia when they do those tests on the high altitude planes?
Basically, yeah.
So you were literally in is it called a hypoxic state? Is that correct terminology?
Yeah. Yep. Not getting enough oxygen to my brain. So people would talk to me,
you wouldn't,
and I would just ramble. I'd ramble about incoherent shit.
Yeah,
I had no idea what I was saying.
That is, next step is death.
Yeah, because this reminds me of I don't know if anyone's ever paid any attention to the Everest. You know, the challenge to like climb Everest and get to the summit.
Oh yeah, they suffer exactly that hypoxia.
They get hypoxia for they call it the death's mile or the death's corridor. And it's basically the last half a mile of the climb up to Everest. And it's not that severe in terms of the gradient, but it's the half mile when you're already exhausted, fatigued, suffering from malnourishment, dehydration, etc. And you're not getting enough. When you go past this particular point, you start to die. It's literally, you've got 48 hours to get to the summit, get back again, and get low enough so that your brain starts getting the oxygen it needs to function. But that when you go past this point, you get side effects like bleeding on the back of the retina, you get hallucinations, you get dizziness, staggering, like lack of energy, and it becomes an incredible task because you are beginning to die. And if you don't turn it around in 48 hours, you are dead.
I was on ketamine as well, so I was hallucinating on 2 counts. Yeah, that was pretty intense.
They also give them Viagra to combat altitude sickness.
Okay. Vascular, what are they called? Not dilators.
I think it is a
vascular
dilator.
Constrictors.
Is it a constrictor? I thought it was a dilator. But either way, they give Viagra to people to stop them suffering altitude sickness. But there are signs on Everest that say if you are suffering a headache, turn back. You will die.
Yeah.
Hey, Space News. How you doing? Hello.
So, Ruahif.
Yeah.
If you was bombed on ketamine in a K-hole. I'm sorry to inform you that you can no longer join the Scientologists.
Yeah, when what's his name? The famous little guy, Tom Cruise. When his wife was in labour, she wasn't allowed any sort of pain relief. Ah, I've lost my entire panel. Hangout number 3 on the way. Welcome to the show.
That's because you're.
In those brief moments, we found out we've got 2 but hurt little babies, Mr. Grim V and Chris. Oh, bless. There you go, fellow masturbators. Type chat name, not a euphemism. Take 3. Hello.
Yo. The problem is, Nate, if people join and we give them like 2 or 3 seconds to speak, get removed.
Yeah, well, like I say, it's a couple of minutes' work so far. It's been one of them. So we've got 2 but hurt little babies. We've got Mr. Grim V and Chris, both of which have tried to, quote, shut the show down. And I've said, fine, sod off and don't come back. And now they've decided that they want to ruin everybody's fun. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, big babies.
I'll give the link back to Ruhif. But it's what he's describing with that hypoxia or apoxia, whichever it was the word he used.
Hypoxia.
When I found out about the Everest expeditions, then literally the last half a mile, you've got to do that in 48 hours. But the problem with it is once you commit to it, you've got to get there and back in 48 hours, otherwise you will die. It's a certainty you will die. But you're not governed by your prowess at climbing. You're governed by the weather, because the weather can turn in a minute or 2 and there can be a snowstorm and all that kind of stuff. And the minute that happens, you've got to stop because you can't see where you're walking, because you can't see that your next step's not down a ravine. And that's a problem because that snowstorm can take a day, it can take an hour, but that's time that you need to get back. So if you can't get past that point of no return, you're dead. And there's the amount of bodies that are on the mountain that have never been recovered because they're in that zone is unbelievable. There's a guy called Green Boots, and he's the marker point for it for the beginning of the death zone. And the reason why I was looking into this is because I have a friend that tried to do the Everest expedition and he died. He went out he was at base camp and he said, "I'll be back shortly. If I'm not back in an hour, sound the alarms." An hour came and went. He weren't back. They sounded the alarms. Never found him. But I didn't realize that you can't just sit on the top of the Everest all day. You've got to literally get up there, take a couple of pictures, smile for the camera, and get on your way again. Because otherwise, the clock's ticking. You will die. I find that incredible. I didn't know that. I thought it was just a case of climbing a mountain and it's hard work. But no, you do go into the danger zone and you will die if you're not done it in 48 hours. And it's only the last half mile. It's like, wow.
So how does that feel, Ruth? How does a hypoxic state feel? Does it sound like the questions that they were asking you sound like they were making sense? And did it feel like you were giving coherent replies, or was it the case that you knew that you were out of it.
Like the pain team comes around every couple of hours and says, "What is your pain score out of 10?"
10.
And like my degree is in computing science, and I started to explain to them all this computing science theory. And my wife goes, "Glenn, they're asking your pain score out of 10." And I said, "I'm fucking explaining it." and then she just looks at the doctors and go, "Yeah, like he's off chops completely." And they took me back to ICU.
I see.
That afternoon.
So you had like no recollection of this whatsoever, I'm assuming.
No, correct. Yeah.
Wow.
But I was just incoherent rantings about the intricacies of C++.
Talking to them in computer code.
Yeah.
Friendly fire.
That's brilliant.
So did you
How's
lose
your pain
temper
score? Let me explain in Java.
I did. I actually did. There's a few comments I made on Facebook posts while I was in ICU where apparently I'm just saying like, what the fuck are these nurses doing to me, sticking all this shit in me? Why are they doing this? Like, what's happening? And everyone must be looking at me going like, you're off your chops.
So let me guess, you're trying to tell him about computing science or whatever, and they're not listening because it's not answering the question. So did you start arguing with them because they weren't accepting what you were saying?
No, I started arguing with my wife. So she's saying, like, they're just asking you for a number out of 10. Like, how much pain are you in? And I'm just ranting about stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty nuts. But yeah, all good now, obviously.
Yeah. So was there a point where you actually thought this might not work?
Yeah, during induction chemo, which is the first, diagnosis in the first round, we got our lawyers in basically for me to sign wills and sign the estate away to my wife and that sort of thing. That was a pretty trippy thing. And then leading up to the transplant, there's like a 10 to 15% chance of dying during the transplant itself. So that was pretty intense as well.
Oh, I kind of feel guilty now for all the hassle we've been giving you recently.
If only for a fleeting moment, I experienced something similar. So when my wife was giving birth to Eleanor, they suddenly all rushed in. One of them hit the alarm, and they all rushed in. And the next thing you know, they're stuffing documents underneath her nose and basically saying, "There's a good chance we will kill you. Sign here."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Holy shit, what's going on? Really?" And then the next thing you know, they're within the whole process of alarm to her being in surgery was no more than 2 minutes, including documents being signed. It was phenomenal. Just went bang, 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 bang. Next thing you know, she's under the knife. It's like, whoa.
The best thing was actually getting out of hospital, and how can I describe it? My insurance salesman telling me I've got this massive payout, and I was like, fantastic.
Oh, really?
I had no idea I had trauma insurance.
That's good. Happy days.
Yeah.
I bet your insurance man loved you.
Yes. Yeah. Signed me up again, so I got life insurance and trauma insurance as well. Again.
Did you, when you originally got this mutation or whatever it is that triggered it? Was it anything? Did you have any experience trauma wise? Did you bang yourself in a funny way because sometimes people break an arm or take a funny bang and that triggers it?
No, it originates in your bone marrow, so it's pretty difficult to do that.
Were you exposed to any type of radiation or airport scanners, that type of thing?
No.
So it was total.
Went through an airport scanner?
Yeah, of course.
Well, then you are.
Yeah, but let's not do that one. I was just wondering, did you attribute it to anything? Was there anything environmental that you might have thought might have happened to you? Or was it just total random?
We actually did there's a psychologist that works for the bone marrow team, and they basically do a follow-up with you 6 months later to get your ideas on what you think happened, how you're dealing with it, and that sort of thing. And I said, look, I see this as a completely random event, and I don't see that I did anything wrong or was exposed to something that I shouldn't have been. I just saw it as It's like you always think, someone that you know will get cancer, and you obviously never think it will be you, but I am that person. It's weird. That's the trippiest thing.
Those questions the doctor was asking you, sound like they were related to your physiology. So you've told us in the first instance that it's had a profound effect on you mentally. So
yeah,
is that something that's also been assessed without getting? I'm sorry if I'm getting too personal in my questions.
No, it's fine. That was kind of the outcome of that assessment, the psychological assessment, is that it just happened to me, and that's the luck of the draw. And like I said, it's reduced anxiety for a lot of things that I used to be scared of.
That's good.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like I go on these ridiculous roller coasters now, which is fantastic.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, a bit light on the flat Earth, but still, nonetheless.
Yeah, we've got like 20 minutes to argue. I can't get to sleep, Nathan, without you calling me a moron. So let's get stuck into it and I'll go to sleep.
It's 2 years of being subject to it. I'm starting to reflect it back on the people who've done it for the last 3 years. You not being one of them, admittedly.
Yeah. All right. I'm feeling you do it.
That being said, I do remember the comment he said about your mama against the wall. So if you want a trigger moment, that would be the one that would have made me triggered.
That didn't trigger me. That's schoolyard stuff. I ignored that completely in the moment.
That's right. You said you had me up against the wall. Yeah, that was fantastic.
Yeah, and you said, yeah, I had your mum against the wall last night or something.
Yeah,
that was it.
Yeah, funny stuff.
No, I mean, there you go.
Hey,
My wife's going to sleep. Hold on. Why is my wife going to sleep at like 3 o'clock?
How long have you guys been going so already?
Literally an hour. I was just this second about to do a quick link.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So we have been going approximately 1 hour. Hope you're all enjoying the debate thus far. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. Massive thanks to all who have done so already. So one last time, if you've not done so already, be also sharing, subscribing and liking. We've got about an hour left on this live stream.
All right, hang on, give me a minute.
So what have we been talking about so far today?
Me,
I'm the star of the show today.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
As an individual, nothing Flat Earth related, but it's been nice, apart from a bit of trolling from Mr. Grimm.
Hang on.
Ruth, can I ask you a question about the leukemia thing? Did they specify where exactly it started? In what bone?
No, they can't do that. Like, there's a mutation somewhere, and then it sort of the immature cells just invade your whole body and crowd out the
all right,
the
yeah,
functional
I understand
cells.
that's how it works once it manifests, but did they trace an origin?
No, they basically can't.
All right.
Where are we? Here we go. I'll see if I can share this. Okay, there we go. All right. Let's start. Can you present me, please, Nathan?
Yeah, you're up.
Yeah. You like my GIF?
Beautiful, man. So you know the top layer where you can see the writing.
The overlay. So the
CMA CGM.
Yep.
Yeah. That's taken in port, right?
Yep.
They appreciate that, generally speaking, even if you have, quote, full visibility on a globe Earth, that's still obscured when it's out at sea. You realise that, right?
Why would it be obscured?
By the waves. Forget about flat Earth or globe
see
Earth. This picture
see
is
the
in the
waves in
most
this.
still dock. So we went out and found this picture. I've seen this picture, this image, before. And it's in dock. Totally calm.
Yeah, but you can see the waves on the Epic Piraeus in the foreground, and they're nothing.
No. On the one that's overlaid, there are no waves. It's
Yeah.
in dock.
Correct.
Right. Well, so what I'm saying is, this isn't a fair comparison. You're comparing what a boat looks like in dock to what it looks like out on the sea in random, unknown conditions. Right?
No,
well,
you can see the conditions on the foreground ship.
Sure, but I've got shots of this boat, right, with all of those letters obscured. Just in the sea. Nothing to do with how far it is. Not a long lens or nothing. Just with all the letters obscured. Just because of spray. Did you know that? Did you see those images when you did the same search I did? Just out of interest. Did you see those images too?
No, I didn't see those. But we're comparing the conditions,
that's cool.
right? The wave conditions.
But it's nice that you found it in a really calm situation to make this comparison. That's cool. That's nice.
Yeah. We can see how calm the ocean is by the Epic Piraeus ship in the foreground. And it's quite calm.
Although the ship that's actually in the picture, in the background, does seems to be slightly at an angle, because I can see like the left side.
Yeah, it's not quite straight on. Yeah.
But yeah, the maps sort of are alike.
This picture also kind of implies that we would see this boat appearing in front of this boat in the foreground, even though it's behind, right? Like,
what do you mean?
Well, it's like, are you saying that this is what we should be seeing of this boat if the Earth was flat?
It's more as showing where the waterline is for both boats. And the waterline for the Conti Leon in the background is below the Epic Piraeus in the foreground.
I have a question. I don't mean to interrupt. I don't mean to be rude, but whilst you've got this on screen, Rue, do you agree that light bends up as well as down?
Yes, but not as frequently and not as much.
Let's suppose, for the sake of discussion, that the light did bend up in this instance. What would the effect of light bending up be?
Light bending up. I don't know. You want to throw something at me?
Yeah, Soundly showed in his little Tensis Bayou experiment, he did a time lapse of the day's work that he did. And to be fair to Soundly, I mean, I'm not his biggest fan, but I can credit people where they do actually make an effort. He spent all day on it, and he was traveling up and down the little Tensis Bayou in his boat, and he was putting these lamps on the vertical structures of the bridge. And he put one lamp every mile or so to give you a grand total of 8. Just shy of 8. It was basically a mile, one lamp every mile. Wasn't quite that, but it was practically that. And what he showed over his time lapse of the day's work was that every light acted independently of each other, and sometimes they would bend up, sometimes they would bend down relative to each other. And that proves that light doesn't always bend down; it can also bend up. Now, you agree that the light can bend up, which is half the problem. I didn't actually think you were going to argue that point. But my question is, if the light in this instance was bending up because the atmospheric conditions allowed it on that occasion, would the effect be to chop the apparent bottom of the boat off?
Well, I think if I can remember to the start of this hangout, possibly this hangout, where you said if light bends up, then you start seeing Fata Morganas and inferior mirages and that sort of thing.
No, that's not the explanation for light bending up.
No, but you would see them.
That's exactly the opposite.
No, if light bends up,
what's
you
to
get
say
the
that this isn't,
mirage
though?
effect.
Can I just interject this just for a second? So in the case of Morgold Lighthouse, apparently that's an effect of refraction, it being bent back up, and it just looks like a lighthouse. It looks like a little smudge, as some people who are naysayers. But my point is that it's just a thing in a picture. And apparently, the entire island, in the case of the Isle of Man, is also looming. The entire thing isn't where it's supposed to be. That is accepted by both sides. in the globe
Yeah,
argument, I
calling
must
that
add.
bending down,
Therefore,
by the way.
I'm nearly
We're
there.
calling
I'm
that
nearly
bending
there.
down, right?
Nearly there. So if stuff is indistinguishable when being refracted, then what would be any different in this instance? Why would it suddenly be suffering some effects?
By the way, Fata Morganas are not caused by light bending up.
No,
They're
I'm playing into their
caused
argument, Arwin.
by
I'm
light
playing into.
bending down and then reflecting
I know,
upon
you
the
know,
surface.
we all know
Yeah,
that, but I'm
very
playing
much
into
so.
his argument here, Arwin. You know.
Inferior mirages are when light bends upwards.
It's when it reflects off the surface of the water, creating a reflection above that's inverted. A Fata Morgana.
If you bring
Well, it doesn't really happen on an ocean. It happens in deserts when it's actually hot enough to reflect the light back up.
Well, Fata Morganas do happen over the. The point's being lost. My question is simple: if the light's being bent up, what would the effect be in this picture?
I would expect to see miraging.
So you wouldn't expect to see the lower portion of the boat to disappear because the light's not getting there because it's hitting the higher part of the boat.
In the vanishing zone.
But there is no vanish. There's no dirty air in this photo. In this.
Agreed. Agreed. There is
Not
no
about
dirty
dirty
air. But we do have some. We do have something called the vanishing zone, right?
Yeah, in an inferior mirage.
No.
No,
We have
in
the
standard conditions.
Yes.
So are we?
We
Did
did
you want to bring up
We did
the?
this live a few weeks ago.
I'll tell you what. I'll bring it up. I'm just trying to remember
Yeah,
where.
bring up the paper.
Yeah,
Section
bring up the paper.
9.3.
Read what it actually says.
Yeah, section 9.3, vanishing zone. Section 9, inferior mirage.
Do you want to put it on screen so we can read it?
The
I
thing
don't know
is
if I've got
that
it. Hold
in
on.
standard condition, light actually bends upwards, and this
No.
suggests that yes, it
No,
does.
standard conditions, light bends down.
No, it doesn't.
Hold on,
Right,
let's not do this. Let's not have the flat Earth versus globe Earth refraction argument round and round in
I'd
circles
like to
with
see
Arwin going, yes,
some
it does, and
actual
Ruhif going, no,
physical
it doesn't.
proof
You
that
going
it
up.
does that in the standard typical atmospheric conditions,
Yeah.
because it doesn't.
You have the converse oppositions to each other here, Arwin. So Ruhif will argue, no matter what you do here, that 76R is applied and it's going to bend down by default. You're going to argue the opposite, but let's just not go round and round in circles for 20 minutes on this.
Just purely the optical effects, optics. So light in standard atmospheric conditions bends up. You can prove this.
No.
Right,
yes,
here we go.
Yes,
now you've said it,
does.
Arwin.
You don't have proof
Arwin,
to
you're
the
now doing
contrary.
exactly what I hoped you didn't, but now I'm going to give Ruhif the opportunity to say the complete reverse of that.
Yeah, light on a globe, light bends and follows the curve
There
on
you
a
go.
standard atmospheric conditions. Because
How long
the
do you want to
density
keep
is
reasserting
lower.
those two things for, Arwin?
No, well, I wasn't talking about a model. I'm just talking about the effects of light in any environment. Doesn't
Agreed,
matter. In
agreed.
an experimental
By
environment
default,
on the
yeah,
Earth,
I agree.
in standard atmospheric condition, light bends up.
I agree, and as a standard, that is the general position we are fighting against. We generally talk in terms of what happens in reality, and generally they will talk in terms of what happens on a model. I get it. That's the default position that we argue from. It's nice that we understand that now, but yeah, but still, we can go round ad nausea with him asserting that it bends around a sphere Earth model, and you saying in reality it doesn't, it bends up.
In laboratory conditions, you can actually do optics experiments and prove that light in normal atmospheric conditions bends up. It does not bend down. And I'd like to see some proof that it does bend down according to you, which would be necessary for your model to work. But in reality, in standard atmospheric conditions, light bends up. It does not bend down. That's just a falsehood.
We're talking about standard atmospheric conditions in that, if you actually type in the standard atmosphere into Wiki.
Atmosphere type conditions, not extreme heat conditions.
No.
In extreme heat
There
conditions, other things apply, then light may actually bend down and reflect upon the hot surface of, say, sand, and then cause mirages. That's proven. You can actually see that. You can actually experiment with that, get footage of the actual reflection on the surface. But in standard conditions, standard atmospheric conditions, regular temperatures, regular moist conditions, all that, light bends up. That's what it does.
Okay, when we're talking about standard atmosphere, we're talking about, higher pressure at the surface and then the pressure gradually decreasing as you go up.
Standard atmosphere. Just the
a
regular,
defined term,
the
No, no, I'm
regular
talking about
northern France, southern England atmosphere conditions.
Yeah, I'm talking about an actual defined term, the international standard atmosphere, which will probably match like the common atmosphere that you see.
Now, I'm not talking really about air pressure. I'm talking about temperature conditions.
Right.
Temperature and moist conditions that are the most common on the world. So
Sure,
not extremely hot
right,
conditions,
just to put
not
an end to this, because
extremely
this could go
cold
on forever as well.
conditions.
Anthony, sorry to interrupt, Darwin. Can you just type into Google the words standard atmosphere and just bring up the search result? I've got you screen shared at the moment with the vanishing zone. If you can just Google search standard atmosphere for us and put the definition up.
There are 4 variables, isn't there, in the standard atmosphere? The best way to get to it is through the Metabunk website. That's where
there's the international standard atmosphere.
I was going to say, I'd rather just Google search it.
No, but I always go through the website that's here, because the standard atmospheric conditions. Is this what you're referring to?
Yeah.
It's a defined term, a standard atmosphere.
There we go. Yeah, so the graph on the right, and you only need to look at the bottom section of it. But yeah, pressure increases. Pressure decreases as you gain altitude, and temperature decreases as you gain altitude up to that 10-kilometer point there, which is all we need to do with, really.
That in a standard atmosphere, the only time that you get a standard atmosphere is for a fraction of a time period in any given day. It's not a continuous that you see regularly. You get it once. It's a timestamp.
Does it match this exactly? I would say almost never.
Yeah. So then the applicability of the international standard atmosphere as a concept almost never applies. It's only for that one time scale, right?
The most
then
common
I have to
atmosphere
redefine what I mean by standard atmosphere, because it is a pretty wide band in which the light bends up, and it's only in pretty extreme irregular conditions, like in the desert, in the full heat, or at the southern pole, in extreme cold, where actually that changes, that band in between which lights respond in a standard way, mainly bending upwards. That's what I meant.
Okay, Ruth.
It's not a very specific point as to an exact type of standard atmosphere. That's not.
No, that doesn't matter. As long as we agree that it's generally higher pressure and temperature at the surface, and then it decreases as you go up.
Maybe I should call it just regular atmospheric conditions.
That's fine. I think we're talking about the same thing.
But in regular atmospheric conditions,
exactly the same thing.
Actually bends upwards, causing
you're not talking at cross purposes, Arwen. You're on the same page here.
I think we are as well. So let's say I'm on the Earth and there is some object around the curve of the Earth somewhere, and there is light coming off that at a tangent to the Earth at that location. As that light travels in a straight line, it will diverge from the curve of the Earth, and it will hit less dense atmosphere, and it will curve slightly back towards the Earth. Does everyone agree with that?
It's a presuppositional argument, but yeah, I don't think it would bend. No, but the thing is, it would probably bend a little, but it would.
Yeah, it does bend a little.
Yeah, but it would never. The light would never actually bend enough to get back into the standard atmospheric conditions, which means that it will never reach the surface, because as soon as it comes back into the standard atmosphere, it will bend back up again. So it doesn't really work.
We're talking about which direction. We're talking about which direction it will bend.
Yeah. Well, according to your system, that means that light will at first bend up. Then when it gets into the higher stratosphere and the air pressure decreases, then it supposedly bends back down. But it will never reach the surface, because it will have to inevitably go through the standard thicker atmosphere again, and then it bends up.
I agree.
So that it causes a very strange mirage type scenario in which you could see the very far land, but only very high up, because you couldn't see it downward.
All we're trying to establish here is the direction of bend.
Well, I'm basing my assertion on your model.
Yep. Which is what I'm trying to do as well.
Yeah, but the thing is, it could never bend into the apparent flat plane, because even if light would bend back down in the higher atmosphere, it could never reach the surface. Because as soon as it enters the regular atmospheric conditions, it would bend back up again. So it doesn't work. Doesn't work out.
Okay, I mean, can you let Anthony get back on his point?
Sure. Yeah.
Right, can you see my screen?
I can.
Right, we're going to talk about the context of the boat in the background. So for every object, in this case, the boat in the background, there is an area which the light cannot reach. I'm going to suggest that that area may be the bottom of the boat that appears to be obscured by what you're calling is the curvature of the Earth. This area is called the vanishing zone, shaded in grey in figure 14.6, which will be this bit here. When the observer, i.e. the P900 user, is located inside the vanishing zone, actually that's meant to be when the target is located inside the vanishing zone, the object will be invisible to the observer as no light ray can reach the observer. We can find the vanishing zone using our program as well. So they've programmed it, right? So we can dismiss that part. But the graph they show appears to show that the light does appear to bend up. Now, if you've got the boat and it's fully in the vanishing zone, it's not going to be seen. But if you've got the boat where it's transitioning...
Yeah, this is a section about inferior mirages.
Sure. But for every object, there is an area that the light cannot reach.
In the section of inferior mirages, yes.
Right. So the area is called the vanishing zone. So are you trying to argue that this doesn't apply because we don't see any evidence of an inferior mirage?
Look at the top right-hand corner of that graph, the red part, and look how it inverts.
Yeah, but that's dealing with the mirage part of it, right?
Exactly.
That's dealing with the very, very far away. That's what happens at where it converges.
This is dealing with the vanishing zone that's not the inversion, not the flip part. So we're talking about this bit here.
It's showing what you can't see.
Yeah, it's the gray part. It's the gray part of the graph. It starts much earlier.
You're referring to the
closer.
You're referring to the inferior mirage that would represent this part, the flipping of the image, right?
Yeah. Yes.
What happens if the boat is sat half in between the joint between the vanishing zone and the normal point caused by the light bending up?
There is no vanishing zone without an inferior mirage.
No, the inferior mirage occurs here at the top right-hand corner of the graph where you correctly identified. But what happens if...
It's that... what's the words?
If I was to get a boat...
Right.
If I was to superimpose the boat down here so that half or the bottom part of it was straddling the line, so that the bottom part of it's in the vanishing zone, but the top part's not, but it's not being inferior mirage neither, the light is simply bending up and chopping the bottom of it off, according to this information. Does that not seem exactly what we see?
No, because there's no inferior mirage. This section is about inferior mirages. Otherwise, this vanishing zone section would not be
the inferior mirage part is here.
9.
I'm not saying that the boat would be positioned here. I'm saying that the boat would be positioned down here somewhere, and it would be partly obscured by the vanishing zone and the light rays that are being hit by the boat. So if you overlap the two here, then you're going to get no inferior mirage because it's not up here, but you're going to get this, what it says. For every object point, there is an area that the light cannot reach. Are you not demonstrating the exact phenomena that's described here because the boat is sat in this area here?
For there to be a vanishing zone, there must be an inferior mirage.
No, the inferior mirage happens here on the graph. I'm asking you, are you not demonstrating the boat is here and here? Can you address that specific point?
Optics in
wait. Can you answer that specific point? If the boat is positioned here on the graph, do we or do we not then get an exact replication of what this graph will be showing?
Sorry, if the boat is inside the red area.
No, you're saying it's an inferior mirage that would put the boat up here, and I would agree with you. But what if the boat's down here somewhere, and the bottom part of the boat only is in the vanishing zone, but the rest of the boat is receiving light? So put the boat here instead of putting the boat here. Would that then give us the exact same we're seeing?
No, because then there's no inferior mirage.
Can I just put the right-hand side? Can I put it into... Sorry, Anthony and Ruhiv, can I just put this into a practical example? So, For example, in the Isle of Man image, because you've got 31 miles between you and Moorgold Lighthouse, you do have the effect at the greater distance of the bottom of the lighthouse being refracted underneath itself, with a complete inferior mirage running the full length of the image, and then a vanishing zone below. Where's the beach? Where's the beach, right? Well, that's the vanishing zone, and above it is the mirage. Well, in this instance, what Anthony's saying is, if you were closer, like the boats, again, in the image of the Isle of Man, that are closer, you can still have the same effect, but without any mirage. Those light lines... Oh, Anthony, can you put your picture back up? Anthony, can you put your picture back up?
Yes.
Yeah, go back to the news.
I'm just trying to get a picture of a boat. Just give me.
No, my wife's hanging out for the baby. Hold on.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, anyway, I've lost track of my point now. So yeah, if it's closer in the graph, like the boats are, these aren't at 30 miles or 31 miles. These boats would be considerably closer, and therefore may be in the position where they wouldn't have the effect of a mirage, like the very bottom section of the very bottom part of the entire composite of the Isle of Man before the hard horizon, where there is a mirage because it's such an extreme distance, as depicted in this graph. Whereas prior to that, you wouldn't necessarily have any mirage, but you would still have a vanishing zone, as depicted in the graph.
I'm just looking for a picture of a boat, so I see either the front or the back side of it, because this might help. But all the boat pictures appear to be side on. What I'm saying, Roo, is depending on where you place the boat on the graph, that's probably the best one I can get. So let's just use this. New this. So copy that and get rid of that. Paint. So if your argument is that it's an inferior mirage, which will place the boat up here somewhere, obviously we're looking side on. But if I put the boat down here and only chop off the bottom part of it, does that not match what we see on the evidence?
Oh, I don't know if you can do that. Someone else needs to come in who's...
Well, you're saying it can go up there, and I don't disagree with that. But you also have to accept that I can put it down here and then put part of the boat vanishing in the vanishing point and the other part not. And then are we not actually see the light rays bending up and supporting the position that light does? It does in fact bend up and chop off the bottom of the boat.
No comment. I have to learn about it and study the paper. I think.
I don't know. I think that's a
I'm
slam
not
dunk.
entirely sure what you're getting at, but I'll think about it.
I'm just saying that your argument is that this is a superior mirage, and I would say that puts it up here at the top right-hand corner, which I agree with you. There would be a flipped, it would be above it, and it would be upside down, like a Fata Morgana. However, if you put it down here, then you don't get that effect. You get a different effect, and there is no flip at this point. There's just some of it's in the vanishing point, and the other part of it's not. So are we not at the transition between the vanishing point where the light can no longer get and the point where the light and the rest of the boat is? And it's creating the perception that there's curvature, but the actual cause is bending of light, bending up, the way that refraction soundly showed it in his Pontchartrain, in his Little Tensis Bayou experiment.
At this stage, I would say you have successfully obfuscated the point, just to the point where I can't argue back.
No, I would say I've argued it perfectly back. Anyway, I've got to answer the call, so give me 2 secs.
Oh, yeah. Kate had a baby boy. Going all quite nummy numb. You still there?
Yep.
Yeah. What's happening?
No, not too much. Just waking up, really.
All right. Oh, I thought of something else. Who am I going to blame for this one? I think it was you, actually. Basically saying that you make a presuppositional argument when we suggest that the Earth is round.
No, what do you mean?
Anyone want to bite at that?
I don't think the Earth is round as a statement is not an argument. It's just an assertion, isn't it?
Yeah, but during the scientific method, that's what you're actually testing. So it's not a presuppositional argument in that it's a begging the question fallacy. It's what you're actually testing. It's a provisional statement that you're testing.
So when have you observed the Earth being a sphere, Ruhif?
In that ISS footage. There you go.
Sorry,
Got that
I'll
one.
say it again. When
I said
have you?
ISS footage.
When have you observed
When
the
have I
Earth being a
observed?
sphere? Yeah, when have you? That was my question, third time. When have you observed the Earth being a sphere, Ruhif?
Have I actually been above the Earth to see the Earth curvature? No.
So is that never?
That's never. I can infer it.
Pretty
though.
difficult to experiment on something you've never experienced, isn't it?
No, there's plenty of ways to infer the shape of the Earth.
Infer?
Yes.
All right.
Suggest, believe.
What's another word for infer? Would you say that presuppose is another word that's similar?
No.
Inference, presupposition, very similar kind of things, aren't they, Ruhif?
So, Ruben, if you're saying that to just say the Earth is a sphere is a hypothesis, is that what you're?
Yes. Oh, that's what we can do. We can carry on from last night.
It's not a hypothesis.
Yeah, the step 2 versus step 3. So step 2 make a hypothesis, step 3 make a prediction from that hypothesis.
I think that that's really just an assertion. It's not. There's no. It doesn't contain like an if-then statement or a. It's not a. You're not.
It's a supposition, right?
No,
it's a supposition to say if this is the case, then I can make these predictions, and do these predictions bear out?
No, it's an assertion, right?
It's a supposition. It's not necessarily a statement of truth or alleging it to be true.
No, to say
What
the
if-
Earth
what if statement?
is a statement alleging it to be true, one would assume. If you didn't make any provisions in your statement that if if blah blah blah, then the Earth is a sphere, then it's a truth statement.
Well, I'm talking in the context of step 2, formulate a hypothesis, and the hypothesis is then used to make various predictions. And one of those predictions might be the ETVOS, and one of them might be celestial spheres and celestial poles. Yeah, so I'm trying to. It's not begging the question to say this is my supposition and let's test it, which I've heard a couple of you guys do in the last few weeks. It's not a fallacy to do that.
No, I don't think that that's what we were saying. I think we were saying that if it's things like if you go on to, it's like the 7.6R thing. Like if you propose to test that hypothesis while assuming already that it, by using mathematical models that assume sphericity, that's the begging the question fallacy.
No, it's still a what if. It's what if the Earth is a globe, then the light will bend towards the Earth.
It's an if and then relationship, not a what if relationship.
Well, I'm not making a scientific statement here. I'm just saying if the Earth is a globe, then yes, the light will bend towards that direction.
I mean,
if
if you're prepared to accept that this is just in no way scientific, then yeah, we can all do that all day long.
Could I phrase it in the form? I don't know. I have to think about that.
I think that that's what you initially brought up. People that we had claimed that people were making fallacious arguments, begging the question. But I think that that's what we were talking about is just the assumption that the Earth is a sphere as part of the logic of the hypothesis test. Like making those assumptions in order to prove those same assumptions. That's what begging the question is.
Yeah, but it's not necessarily to prove it. It's to show that it's consistent with the hypothesis. So when I say if it's a globe, then we take 7.6R, and you guys go, oh no, you've got to prove R first. That's not really what we're saying. Is we're saying that if the Earth is a globe, then under standard atmospheric conditions, the light will bend and roughly follow the curve.
Okay, well then you're not proving it's a globe, right?
Yeah.
So the Earth is a
we'd be
globe, then you're not testing that hypothesis. Instead, you're
we'd be demonstrating that some observations match our model.
Yeah, your model being the assumption.
If you assume your model's correct already, then yes.
That's where it's begging the
Yeah,
question.
that's all you can do. That's all you can do. You can make a hypothesis.
Yeah, that's right. All a model can do is beg the question. Correct.
No, this is the entire point of this little conversation, is that it's not begging the question to put forward a hypothesis and then test it to see if it's consistent.
Yeah, in the natural world. But models are not that.
Yeah, but the problem here is that you're considering your model to be a variable in the test, right? But when it's not really, it can't be.
This is again what we were trying to get to last night: the conflation between step 2 and step 3. There's no the independent variable and dependent variable don't come into it until you have an experiment. You have a hypothesis that makes predictions, and then you test those predictions with an experiment.
No, a hypothesis test. That's what an experiment is. An experiment is a test of the hypothesis. It is your hypothesis test. That's what an experiment is.
It's a test of a prediction that your hypothesis
your
made.
Hypothesis tests the hypothesis statement. It establishes the cause and effect in practical application. So your hypothesis establishes your independent and your dependent variable, and your test tests it. Simple. It actualizes.
Let me read from Rochester.
No,
listen.
A test.
Hypothesis.
Hold on, let me just finish my statement. Let me just finish my statement. Yeah. An experiment actualizes the hypothesis.
No, it actualizes the prediction.
Yeah, the prediction being the hypothesis. The actual explanation of the cause and effect relationship is the hypothesis, and your experiment is your test of that statement. An experiment is a hypothesis test.
A hypothesis is an explanation as well. It says, the dictionary defines it: a proposition or set of propositions set forth as an explanation for the occurrence of some specified group of phenomena, either assorted merely as a provisional conjecture to guide investigation or accepted as highly probable in the light of established facts. Right. So the Earth as a sphere is not a hypothesis statement. Like, you'd have to say something else about it as well, like that it says set forth as an explanation for the occurrence of something, and then that's where how you get your if-then statements out of it.
Yeah, I sent Anthony and Nathan an email last night as I went to bed, and gave like a hypothetical run through of the scientific method, where I said, step 1, I observed that things weigh differently at different latitudes. And then taking Nathan's idea of what a hypothesis is, I hypothesize that things weigh differently at different latitudes. Step 3, I predict that things weigh different at different latitudes. And step 4, I test it. At the end of that, there is no explanation there. All you've done is just observe. Exactly. There's no explanation. Your hypothesis is meant to explain something.
Yeah, the relationship between cause and effect.
You explain that there's a relationship between how much things weigh and latitude.
Yeah, but what's the explanation for that?
Yeah, but it's not. Your hypothesis is not about explaining anything.
Yeah,
it's
literally step 2: formulating a hypothesis to explain the phenomena.
Yeah, to explain the cause of the phenomena, the cause and effect, the effect being the phenomena, and you're manipulating it with your independent variable.
But you're not explaining anything at all.
Yes, you are. You're trying to establish a direct cause by manipulating that cause.
If my hypothesis is that things weigh different at different latitudes, what is my prediction?
I don't know. It's a crap hypothesis. It's a crappy hypothesis.
That's devoid of content. You've just restated
well, that's your hypothesis. We've ripped it a new one, and you're now telling me that it's a crap hypothesis and saying, well, what's wrong with this crap hypothesis? It proves nothing.
You can put in anything in that spot.
Yeah,
Nathan, can you present
my what's happened is you have done that, and we have pointed out what utter garbage it is, Ruhif, and now you're saying, well, it's utter garbage. What's your problem? Well, the problem is it proves nothing.
What's one of Morace's experiments? What's one of his proofs that he spits out?
What's his proof for what, sorry?
He lists like 10 different things that science supposedly proves. Let's stick one of those in here. It's contentless.
But we're not trying to prove anything other than the shape of the Earth here, which you guys assert.
Yeah, that's what
you
I'm
know.
saying. If your
already.
hypothesis is literally a synonym for your experiment, then there's nothing to be gained. There's no
it's not a
explanation. There's
synonym.
nothing.
It's the expression of the experiment. It is your experiment statement. It establishes in what will happen in the experiment, the cause and effect relationship between the independent and dependent variable. It's that simple.
It's like we could do experiments that, determine the rate at which things fall based on their height and mass and shape, but that still wouldn't give us an explanation for the mechanism of gravity.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay, but it's not the fault of, that's not our fault.
Yeah, so what? The limitation of the scientific method doesn't mean you invent a just so story.
Yeah. So what are you suggesting? We do this experiment about weight and latitude, and then we just, because, you're not finding the answer satisfactory, that we jump to the Earth as a globe?
No. All it means is we've just agreed on a set of facts that weight change is due to latitude. We have no explanation for it.
Right, but
yeah, what's the point then?
In theory, you could come up with another experiment that might be able to determine that cause, or to find.
We've already determined the cause.
What?
The cause is the change in latitude.
Sure.
Yeah, that's meaningless. There's no explanation there whatsoever.
Glad you're admitting it. Well done.
No, it's not meaningless. It's saying that it's pointing out that there's this relationship between latitude and how things weigh.
Yeah, why?
Oh.
Why is there that relationship?
I don't know. You tell me.
Not our experiment,
is a spinning globe. That's my
hypothesis. We don't use it as
proof
of
that
anything.
Using another hypothesis, then. So you're saying, oh, well, because you have this idea that it's because the Earth is a spinning globe, that somehow that has some sort of scientific merit because you can say it, or because you can propose it, so therefore you don't have to do a legitimate experiment to prove it?
No, because it can make predictions and those predictions bear out.
No, no, it doesn't make those predictions.
Earth is a spinning globe doesn't make those predictions? Seriously?
That didn't come into the experiment at any stage, Ruhif.
Yeah. What's your hypothesis?
That the Earth is a spinning globe. If the Earth is a spinning globe, there is differing centrifugal forces at the equator compared to other latitudes. Therefore, things will weigh differently.
Right, and the problem with that is that your independent variable is a spinning Earth, and you can't manipulate that.
My hypothesis is separate to the predictions
spinning Earth.
By the
that's what you've just said,
Ruhif.
If the Earth spins.
Presuppositional arguments.
No, you've done it again. You've done exactly what I said at the start.
What?
You just said exactly what the point I was trying to make.
Because it's correct. It is a presuppositional argument. You are begging the question. You are saying on my model. So before you've even got to explaining anything, you assume the Earth's a sphere. So he's right. He's right to reassert it again and again and again. All of your arguments automatically assume you're on a sphere, Ruhif. No, that's your religion. Your religion is to assume you're on a sphere. That's your religion. It's your idol.
We hypothesize we're on a sphere. We don't assume it.
Yeah, right. You can call it hypothesize, but a hypothesis without an experiment that has gone through systematic experimentation is just an assertion from incredulity, otherwise known as your religion, your presupposition, your idol being the base of that presupposition, your idol being the globe.
And what about all the missing evidence that we're on a sphere as well, like the lack of Coriolis effect, or the fact that the atmosphere...
The lack of Coriolis effect?
Yeah, there's no Coriolis effect. There's no proof that there's Coriolis effect.
Yeah, planes don't arrive at their destinations earlier.
And then when you actually try to go out and look for it, it doesn't exist. So it's like, okay, so things weigh different at different latitudes, according to you. I don't even believe that.
Sorry, I missed that.
Yeah, we have two examples online of that. One of them is from Wolfie, who's completely dedicated to making anti-flat Earth material, and I don't trust him at all.
Does that make him wrong? Well,
no, I'm not saying. I'm just saying we have that example, and then we have Cody's lab, where his results were not at all what he predicted.
Yeah, so you're not gonna take any evidence from a baller. So your only option then is to do it yourself, right? Go and do it yourself. I'm saying
we have one other example, Cody's lab, where I'm willing to take him on good faith, and and what he found was that his prediction, things didn't weigh what he predicted at all. And then he made up a whole other speculative argument about how it was because there was a gravitational anomaly where he was doing the weighing, because there was a different mass of the rocks miles and miles underneath his feet, which he had no way of knowing. So it's just, they just pile speculation on speculation every time that
you can measure the acceleration at any point on Earth
by weighing.
Yeah, but
right, but they don't find it's not like it's consistent with just latitude, right? Like wherever it's not consistent, then they explain that there's a gravitational other, right? So they just explain it like if all the it's just basically made of anomalies that they explain away with other speculative explanations that they can't prove, right?
Sorry, I jumped to the Epos effect there. The Epos effect. I jumped to the Epos effect. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's where I jumped to because it demonstrates, it takes that variable out of the equation.
Okay, but what about, so we have, say if we give you that, right? What about the lack of Coriolis effect? So what do you mean lack of predictions of the model are met and others aren't met. The problem, this is how science really works. If you can't meet, if any of these predictions aren't met, then your model's junked.
Sure, I've never seen a lack of Coriolis effect.
Well, how am I going to show you a lack of Coriolis effect? I've never seen a Coriolis effect.
So what do you think the Coriolis effect is, Ruhif? What do you say?
Tell me the evidence that there's the Coriolis effect.
Well, let's just establish we're on the same page here. So, Ruhif, what do you think in the Coriolis effect, according to what you understand of it, does the atmosphere lockstep with the Earth and be continuously dragged along with the Earth's spin, or are they separate? The Earth is spinning beneath the atmosphere.
They're together, but they're imperfect.
So they're roughly moving together perfectly.
Yeah. Not perfectly, but they're roughly idealized. I'd say yes.
Right.
That's just ridiculous.
So hold on.
They're not.
So that what you're saying, Ruhif, is you don't believe in the Coriolis effect because the Coriolis effect is such that the Earth is spinning separate from the atmosphere.
I'm saying there are mountains on Earth. The Earth is not a perfectly smooth ball, so there is friction. Therefore, the air does not move absolutely 100% perfectly with the Earth, but it roughly does.
That's ridiculous. There's not friction, there's drag. And the drag is just at the surface.
What is drag? What is drag?
Drag is just the...
Drag is friction.
No, it isn't. Friction is...
Hold on. Numi, I just want to get this pegged down for the audience. By saying that the atmosphere is essentially dragged along with the Earth, you are saying that it is not the case that the Earth is moving beneath the atmosphere, which is what the Coriolis effect is.
No, that's not quite what it is.
Yeah, that is exactly what it is.
What it is.
No, that's why I'm trying to establish whether or not you say
by the displacement of air due to the rotation effect, or it's caused by centrifugal force. It's either one.
Hold on, don't muddy the waters, Arwen. Arwen, we're just trying to get the definition of what globe earthers call the Coriolis effect. The Coriolis effect is the Earth spinning beneath the atmosphere such that bullets do not reach their target, because the two are separate reference frames. The Earth spinning and the atmosphere detached and separate from that Earth spin. And what you are suggesting is it is dragged along with the Earth, which is not what the Coriolis effect states. So you are against the Coriolis effect, in essence.
I'm not sure that you understand it.
There's no evidence of the Coriolis effect anyway. It's just an assumption that you're making. There's no proof. There's no evidence.
It doesn't make sense that a super fast item like a bullet would actually deviate from its path due to the Coriolis effect, but a just standstill air would not.
This is
either both is subjected to it or neither.
The atmosphere is moving along with the Earth, but it is moving at different speeds based on your latitude.
Okay, so how have you seen this footage of these weather balloons that go up basically to 120,000 feet, right? And then when they fall down, they land in the same spot almost, with give or take a mile or two. Where's the Coriolis effect?
It depends whether they head north or south.
You think that the atmosphere 120,000 feet above where there's not even enough air to produce sound is just somehow locked to the ground directly below it through some relationship between those gas molecules? That's insane.
You guys don't quite understand it.
No, there's nothing to understand. How is that going to happen? How are the gas molecules 120,000 feet above the surface of the Earth at a given point going to be dragged along with the Earth? That's
Was
insane.
there any north-south movement of this weather balloon?
No. I mean,
no,
a negligible amount.
No point.
Not nearly the amount. It's up there for like 4 hours. It should be thousands of miles away.
No, you're not actually getting what it is. If something is traveling north, it is going, from the equator. If it goes north, it is traveling at a higher velocity relative to the Earth. But when it goes north,
I'm talking about the atmosphere being this idea that the atmosphere spins with the Earth, right?
Yeah, which is not exactly the same thing as the Coriolis effect. They're separate things.
No, they're
the atmosphere moves together with the Earth.
They contradict each other.
That's exactly the point.
But I'm just asking.
According to your theory,
Ruhif. Now we're getting to the crescendo. That's the point. They contradict each other, Ruhif.
Yes.
No, they do not.
Look.
Yes, they do.
According to your theory, and even with the Atlas effect and everything, if you would stand on the equator and shoot arrows, not bullets, but arrows, in all directions, east or west, the north and south is not really relevant, then those arrows should always, on average, reach much further to one direction as the other. Does that happen?
North and south is very relevant.
No,
in fact,
talking east and west. That's the supposed spin direction. So if you all shoot these arrows, then on average, on one direction, they should all land further away than into the other direction, on average.
I wouldn't even call east-west Coriolis effect.
That's ridiculous.
I would call
Atlas
it something
effect rotation. No, whatever you're going to call it, that's should happen if the Earth was spinning.
You can even shoot.
I don't think it does.
No, you can even test Coriolis effect by shooting something straight vertically upward.
Sure.
That would be the best way.
No, you cannot.
Oh yes,
Coriolis effect is all about north-south.
Oh no, it isn't.
Going from one velocity, one rotational velocity to a different rotational velocity. That's what it is.
No, that isn't what it is. You're wrong.
That is what it is.
I think it is actually a case, Ruhif, that you don't understand what the Coriolis effect is.
No, I really do. I really do.
Now, if there is any kind of force exerted on items because of the spin of the Earth, then if you shoot arrows into one direction towards the east, and you shoot an equal amount of arrows to the west, and you more or less use the same angle and the same power for each shot, or you just shoot a lot of arrows, eventually limiting the amount of possibilities as to where they can land, then in one direction they should fall further away on average than into the other direction.
I'd probably agree, but I would say that's nothing to do with Coriolis.
I don't really care about Coriolis effect in this case.
Okay, in any case, there's no evidence of Coriolis effect. That's my point. Show me the tests that demonstrate Coriolis effect. It doesn't happen. It's not reality.
I don't know whether it's a scientific test, but I mean, you've got to explain why storms in the northern hemisphere spin.
No, we don't. No, we don't. No. We don't need our just so story to pummel your just so story about Coriolis. We don't need to make up some nonsense to challenge it. We can just say your story's nonsense and makes no sense and has contradictions. You know, you don't have to make us come up with a story.
No evidence of Coriolis. There's not even evidence that all the storms spin in those directions in the northern and southern hemispheres either. That's just a claim.
It's all dependent on the dynamics of the turbulence.
I don't even believe it's true. I don't think you're going to be able to prove it. I think it's just a claim.
I'm sure I can give you a stack of examples.
Oh, really? What? So if there's like three tornadoes in the northern hemisphere moving in one direction, all following each other, are they all going to spin in the same direction?
I think they will. How about we test it? How about we go through, say, 2017's tornadoes in both northern and southern hemispheres and see which way they rotate?
Well,
That
let's
just
just
doesn't
see
prove
on
anything
one
to do with the
side. I
shape
think,
of the Earth, though.
There
Doesn't
was
prove
3
anything.
tornadoes going over. What was it again?
Doesn't
that
prove
island?
the Earth spins.
Again?
Doesn't prove the Earth spins. It's pointless. You can insert a just so story or a presupposition, but other than those two things, there's no extraction of globe Earth proof from that experiment when you check those tornadoes.
It's a prediction of a spinning globe.
Yeah, well, that's
If
what I
the
just said.
Coriolis effect
It's based on a
existed,
presupposition. I've just said that. That's what I just said. Literally just said that.
Yeah, a hypothesis.
Right, so a presupposition will be inserted about the globe, right? So in no way are we extracting out globe Earth proof from this. You're just going to insert your presupposition, so it's just yet another opportunity for you to say, this is how it works on my model. And from that point on, you have presupposed we're on a sphere.
I've hypothesized, which is a
But the
supposition.
hypothesis is just part of the scientific method that you have extracted out and said, because we've got a hypothesis, that explains it. It doesn't. You require systematic experimentation.
Yeah, and as I said, I'm not sure yet how to actually test the Epos effect. I mean, you could do like north-south shooting.
Why?
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I mean, I'm not. No, the Coriolis effect. You mean, right?
Sorry, Coriolis. Yeah.
Yeah, I knew what you meant.
Yeah. Okay. So it's amazing though that there isn't already some sort of evidence with the Coriolis effect.
Right. Back to this.
I'm willing to bet that you can't. That if you actually do some independent testing, you're not going to find any Coriolis effect because it doesn't make any sense. This is what I'm saying when we get back to this thing about things weighing differently at different latitudes. You're just basically, if that was true, which I don't think it is, I think that the whole map of the whole gravimetric map of Earth shows that it's just made of anomalies that are explained away for other speculative reasons. That, yeah, well, you're missing other much more dramatic evidence of that same supposition, right? So then you're just saying, well, things weigh differently at different latitudes, even though it's all just, and we can explain away all these anomalies by our model of rock density 100 miles under the surface, but then you're missing Coriolis effect. But no, the Coriolis effect is really there, right? Because you can take satellite images of hurricanes in the Caribbean, and they're always rotating the same way according to NASA or whatever, right? Like there's no, but you're not going to actually. I would like to see actual evidence of the Coriolis effect. That's all I'm asking for, not
off the top of my head, I can only think of
NASA,
firing weapons north and south.
NASA fake imagery and not presuppositional arguments.
Why do you keep calling hypotheses presuppositional?
I'm not saying the hypothesis is presuppositional. I'm saying that you're just assuming that there's a Coriolis effect, and that's
a prediction of a spinning globe.
Yeah, but you're acting like it's already.
When you say on a globe, Ruhif, when you say on a globe, that's the presupposition right there.
That's a hypothesis.
No. Hypothesis establishes a cause and effect relationship between an independent and a dependent variable, the independent variable being the thing that you can manipulate, and you can never manipulate sphere Earth. It is not a viable part of a hypothesis.
No,
you can tell me it is, but it isn't.
In such a way as an explanation for something. Not the Earth is a globe is not a hypothesis.
Yes, it is. It explains all the Coriolis, Epos.
No, it's just in this.
It's just a model.
To actually make a hypothesis statement, you have to be more specific than that. You'd have to say there's a Coriolis effect because the Earth is a globe. That's a hypothesis. Okay.
No, that's a prediction. That's
no, you could say the fact that the Earth is a globe causes there to be a Coriolis effect. That's a hypothesis that you could test. But the Earth is a globe is an assertion, not a hypothesis.
It is absolutely a hypothesis, and it makes predictions.
But you have to add. You have to actually make the prediction for it to become a hypothesis, and it has to be specific. Then
that's fairly semantic.
If the Earth is a globe, then we look at what our independent variable is from that, which is that the Earth is a globe, right?
Fail.
But aside from all of that, there's no evidence of Coriolis effect. You just just exists in your imagination, right? And you act as if like that's already somehow been established, and so that we can then we can then jump right to your presuppositional argument about your hypothesis of the cause being the Earth as a globe, which is ridiculous. But you don't even have evidence. You don't even have evidence of the Coriolis effect.
Gents, just excuse me one sec.
See how far ahead of yourself you're getting?
Gents, just one sec. Just one sec. Nathan, did you put the link public?
Yeah, link's public. Yes, link's public.
Oh, that's okay. Wow. I sent the link to one guy in private thinking that he was going to join, and then Grimvy joined, and I was just about to call him all the names under the sun. Sorry, gents, carry on.
So, no, I mean, like, purely anecdotally, I see, storms in the northern hemisphere spin anti-clockwise and southern hemisphere spin clockwise. Would you accept it as reasonable evidence?
Okay, you saw that.
Say again?
You saw that?
I see satellite images. Yes.
Hello again.
Okay, you've seen satellite images, right?
Hello.
Well, that's a whole problem because they are coming from these discredited space agencies, and
according to you,
it's not even possible to have a satellite orbiting the Earth because rockets can't work in a vacuum.
Oh dear, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sorry, I'm not. We can't reproduce this evidence of these satellite images for ourselves, and there's this, there's enormous amount of telltale signs of fraud surrounding this whole space program and satellite imagery thing. Yeah, I'm not taking that as being unquestionable evidence for what you're claiming at all. Not at all.
But like
that needs to be proven on its own beforehand.
Rockets in space is like, Flat Earth 101, right?
Thank you.
What?
Rockets in space is like Flat Earth 101 debunk.
No. There's no evidence that rockets can work in a vacuum, and in fact, it doesn't make any sense at all.
Wow.
But you know what? I don't want to go to that. I'm just saying there's no evidence of Coriolis, and in any case, you can't reproduce this evidence that you're claiming. These satellite images, right? Like that's something that you're taking on faith. You must admit that that's true.
Anecdotally, I'll say. But I am going to go to Vegas later in the year, so I'll hire a rifle and go and do an experiment, if you like.
Okay. Yeah, do that, please.
I will.
But isn't it kind of amazing that there's no demonstration of the Coriolis effect available?
I don't know that there's not. I haven't looked, really.
There's plenty. I've just posted a video.
There you go.
Got 30 seconds, Alan. What's the scientific evidence? Can you sum it up in 30 seconds?
Well, if you shoot a gun at 1,000 yards,
what's your independent variable, Alan?
you'll always go high at east and low at west. Proven.
Right. So in this instance, if gun fired west, so your independent variable would be gun being fired, sod all to do with the shape of the Earth. Total fail right at the end there from Alan. And with that, I think I'll say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for joining and making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!